For this video, I'm going to use one famous typical example of inequality and see what happens when we actually apply absolute equality to this example. So a typical example of inequality is the fact that the majority of governments in general are comprised of men. The world is mostly dominated by males, and this is seen as a huge form of inequality. So the first step to make this more equal is to include women into leadership. But of course that won't be enough. In Europe or in America, where we are mostly dealing with white dominance, now to make this more equal, we should include black people into leadership. But of course that still won't be enough. In a multicultural country, we should include people with different religious backgrounds into politics, such that they can represent the different religious people who live in that country to make it more equal. But of course that still won't be enough. Because what about the LGBT community? Maybe we should include at least one lesbian slash gay slash transgender person into politics. They want to have a voice too. Okay, so are we done now? Do we finally have an equal society right now? Of course not. There will always be certain groups of people who will be treated unequally. The world is divided into so many different types of people, and each one of them want to be treated equally. They want to have the same opportunities like everyone else. What about people with physical and mental disorders? People with ADHD, they need specific type of treatment and support to be able to live a normal life. You know what? I'm not going to make this video too long, so let me make this clear in the following way. So let's say that we have a group of people, and that group of people includes a person with autism, a person with a physical handicap, a Muslim, a Christian, a Buddhist, a Satanist, some gay persons, a homophobic person, a transgender, a Native American, an Aboriginal, an alcoholic, a person with obesity, a person with anorexia, a schizophrenic person, a smoker, a person who suffers from asthma, a drug addict, a person who loves death metal, a person who loves classical music, a person who is allergic to cats, a person who owns 10 cats, a vegan, a meat eater, an introverted person, and an extroverted person. Now, so we have this group of people and we put them all into one big room, and they have to live with each other for a few weeks. Now, do you think it is possible for them to live in peace? Is it possible to create a moral system, a moral hierarchy that will ensure that every single person in that room will be treated equally, in the sense that they can do what they want as long as they don't impose problems onto anyone else? My answer is, of course not. As soon as someone starts to perform an activity that he or she likes to do, that will most likely violate someone else's freedom, and so there will be inequality. And of course, this will especially cause problems where people with lots of different backgrounds live together in a small area. For example, Belgium is a small country and the population density is quite high. And the population is comprised of many different people with many different backgrounds. And it's really difficult to make sure that each specific type of person gets to have as much freedom and respect as everyone else. And as a result, people are complaining a lot. And the victims of inequality are constantly blaming the government because, hey, you need to make the laws that can give us more freedom and that can give us the opportunity to live a normal life like everyone else. Nobody should be privileged. We all deserve a good life no matter what your background is. But the big problem is that there exists so much diversity among us. There exist so many differences. As soon as we provide beneficial laws for a certain group of people, then that will limit the freedom for another group of people. And so there will always be a victim of inequality. You just can't provide goodness for literally everybody. And this is once again especially true for countries with high population density and where there is lots of multiculturalism and lots of LGBT people and lots of people who want to act as abnormal as possible. And this is, as you might know, the ideology of the leftist community. Now, just for the record, I'm not saying that I am against leftism. In fact, I initially also support equality, and I wish that we could all live together peacefully. But I'm trying to point out that this is a complete failure. Now, anyway, the idea behind leftism is everybody is welcome to join a society, no matter who you are, or what your belief is, or what your religion is, or what your background is. Everybody is a human being, and everybody can be whoever he wants to be, and everybody can express themselves the way they want, and everybody has a right to be treated equally. You know? We have to see through the differences. We are all essentially the same. And yes, that's true, that's all true. But it's not practical. It's just not practical to give all these different people the same amount of freedom. It's extremely difficult to take into account all the different traditions and beliefs and desires and health conditions and mental disorders and religions and habits and talents, and thereby making sure that everybody gets to live an equally valuable life. This is just doomed to create victims of inequality. The more diversity there exists among people, the bigger the potential for inequality to exist. Now, let's think about this. When you put a smoker and a non-smoker in the same room, it's going to be quite impossible for them to live together peacefully. You would have to separate them into two different rooms. Now, idealistically, if you want to prevent inequality as much as possible, you would have to separate each different group far enough to make sure that they don't interact with each other whatsoever. If you put all the theists on one planet and all the atheists on another planet, there will be a lot less competition and fights and inequality. So if you put every specific group with their specific beliefs or traditions on a separate planet, that would prevent a lot of problems. But now let's think further than this. Within the theist community, there exists different kinds of theists. Not every theist agrees with one another. So even within the theist community, there might be forms of inequality. So if you want to make sure that they can live in absolute peace with each other, you would have to subdivide the theist community and spread them once again on separate planets. Do you see where I'm going with this? We have to go smaller and smaller within each group to find a small group where each person absolutely agrees with every other member of that group, such that absolute peace and absolute equality is guaranteed. Now I wonder how small you would have to go. Is it even possible for you to live in absolute peace with just one person. Maybe once in a while you will feel treated unequally by this person. Now, of course, you can have some arguments and get over it and such, but the point is that theoretically, if you want absolute peace and equality, the best thing we could do is to separate every single human being and put them onto separate planets. So, one planet for every single person. Only then absolute equality and peace can become actualized. So this is the paradox of equality. We want to live together as one society where everybody can be as different as they want and where everybody will be equally valued. But theoretically, if you want to be absolutely sure that no inequality will ever happen, the best thing you could do is to isolate every single human being. God damn it, so much background noise. Anyway, the best thing you could do is to isolate every single human being and make sure that they don't interact with each other, which is the total opposite of our ideological society of equality. Now, of course, this is far-fetched, but theoretically true, I think. Now, anyway, the important thing to remember is it's absurd to pursue equality by bringing as many different people as possible into one society and expecting everyone to respect everyone else. That's all.